Thank you. My full name is Wilfredo Azul La Luz Baisotero Figueroa Rosario. That's my full name. And that's in honor of all my grandmothers going back uh, and my father's maiden name. Um, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to start from now with my life and talk about who I am and what I do. And then I'm going to go back a ways and talk about this little book that I wrote because people asked me to write it. Let me tell you that I'm a medical sociologist, which makes me a doctor. I studied at the medical school. I studied at the nursing school, public health department. Got my ethics at the nursing department. And then I studied in the sociology department. Took me 13 years to become a doctor. And that'll become important when you find out that I started with a GED. I actually started with a GED. I didn't start with a high school diploma or anything. So I'll get back to that in a minute. In any case, so now I taught at UNM for about 10 years before I retired. I taught pre-med, and I taught criminology, and I taught ethnic studies. Before that, I went back and I got 2 masters. One master's in human geography, which almost nobody seems to know it exists, but it's very close to sociology, and it's very close to human anthropology. So those blend together, as we know. I also got a second master's in sociology, concentrating on women and crime. In my bachelor's, I got a psychology and management. I went back to school at the age of 49 years old, and I went back because my oldest daughter, named Wendy, kept bouncing around, didn't do anything with her life. And I said to her, Wendy, you need to do something. I don't care if you go to TVR, which is now CNN. But she said, Dad, I'm too old to change. So I went back to school. I told her, I'm going to show you that nobody's too old to change. I was 49 years old at the time. And I went back to school. And as I mentioned, it took me 13 years to finish up. Before that, I was a county administrator and a city manager for about 20 years. I managed cities. The largest organization I managed was in Whiteside County, Illinois. 19 department heads, 472 employees, and a budget of $4,072,000. And I was directly in charge of all that. The biggest irony of that particular thing was that I helped build a jail, a courthouse and a jail. And it's very ironic because here comes the other part of my life. By the age of 9, I grew up in Harlem, New York. By the age of 9, I'd done just about anything you can think of. By the age of 12, I was a heroin addict, doing $150 a day, robbing banks, robbing pharmacies, doing anything I had to do to support my habit. Not proud of it, but that's the way it was. It was the 50s and 60s. At the ripe age of 15, I killed another 15-year-old boy in a gang fight and ended up in prison. I had a 12-year sentence which got reduced to a 15-year sentence which got reduced to 12 years. And I did 10 of those. I did 10 years in prison. So I was a dope fiend from the age of 12 to 27. And in prison I used to use when I first went in. So what happened to me may be happening to some of you. And unless you grab yourself and start thinking about that, it's not going to make any difference what I say or what anybody says, because you know it all and you're tough and you can kick ass and that's that. You know, that's the way I thought when I was younger. As a matter of fact, when somebody told me, would you do that again, when I was about 16, and I said, if he was born again, I'd kill him again. That's how stupid I was. So certain things happen in prison. I started learning. I was very lucky. When I went to prison, I had 3 other brothers, and all 3 of them had been to prison already. So all 3 of them started telling me what to do from the county jail. Do this, don't do that, accept this, don't accept that. You know, if somebody comes trying to give you cigarettes, don't take it, you know, because they'll be back for the ashes. And just telling me how not to get hurt when I was in prison. Unfortunately, or fortunately, one of the things they told me is you got to look really mean and you got to act mean. So what I did was, thinking that I would look tough, I was only 5'5" at the time, weighed, you know, soaking wet, I probably weighed around 100 pounds. So back then, they used to give you the razor blades that didn't have, they were the kind you opened up and opened the razor blades that had one side to it. So I'm sitting in my cell and I went, you know, if I had a patch over my eye, I would look like a pirate. Talk about dumb, right? So I grabbed the razor blade and I tried to pluck my eye out with it. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it didn't go all the way through and the blood started dripping and I kind of, oh shit, there's blood all over the place, you know. And so I called the guards, they came in, they got me, they took me to the infirmary and they cleaned me up. And when they did, the doctor giving me the examination noticed that I saw double through this left eye. And so in actuality, without glasses, I saw almost double, almost triple through my left eye and double through my right eye. And I had no clue. I mean, does a fish know it's in water? I had no clue. And back when I was in school, they didn't give you an examination. You know, it's not like you routinely got an exam or anything. I mean, my smallest class was probably 150 students. We used to sit on the floor. So it was pretty bad back then. But, you know, what they say about silver linings and good things coming out of bad things, they figured out I needed glasses. So they figured it all out and gave me the glasses with the astigmatism corrected and the correction of the, and I still see slightly double even with my glasses, but I was able to learn how to read. I was 19 years old, didn't know how to read. 19. Say again? Well, it was more than determination. It was assistance. They told me I was so dumb that the only thing I would be able to do for the rest of my life was swing a mop. That's what they told me in prison. You're so dumb, don't even try to go to school, don't try to do anything. Just learn how to mop and clean things really well because you're going to be a janitor the rest of your life. And I believed them. But again, how luck would have it, I ripped a pair of pants apart in the tailor shop and got sent to segregation. In segregation, one of my friends sent me a cigarette, which I wasn't supposed to have, and as I'm smoking it, I got busted by the hack. He opens the door, he says, come out. I'm walking out of the door, and he takes a swing at me. And most of you that are from the street know what would happen. Somebody takes a swing at you, I automatically duck, bam, and I hit him without even thinking about it. And when he fell down, the Boone Squad came. And there were like 6, I mean, this is out in the country, upstate New York. There were about 6 guys, you know, big guys, pickaxe handles, beat the hell out of me. Broke 4 of my ribs, put me in the hospital. As luck would have it, my dad came to see me the next day. And at first they wouldn't let me out. And he said, if you don't let me see my son, I'm going to go get a habeas corpus. So they did. And when he saw me, I mean, he just was enraged. He was so angry. I was all swollen and stuff. So he left. He was going to go get a lawyer to come take pictures. The next day they packed me all up and sent me to another prison. So by the time my dad got back to the prison, I was gone. The beauty of it was, though, that they sent me to a prison that was an honor prison, because they figured, we don't want these people to sue. He looks terrible, you know. So they sent me to an honor prison. And in that honor prison, I was still mopping, but now I was mopping inside the school. So I got the privilege of mopping inside a school. And there was this teacher that he had a lot of stuff on the wall, and I didn't know how to read by then. But I was really curious, and I would ask him questions. His name was Mr. Stone. And one day he said, there's nothing stupid about you. I'm going to teach you how to read. I said, get out of here, man. I can't learn how to read. You know, he said, you're going to learn how to read. And to be honest, I was kind of scared because he was a white dude, and the only white people that had ever been anything to me were the cops and the firemen who used to kick our ass all the time. So I didn't want to have anything to do with them. And besides that, I figured, God, the guy probably wants some of my booty, man. You know, I don't want it. But he convinced me. He really convinced me that he was honest, that he wanted to help. And here's what I share with you. Here's where my life really turns, and it turns because for the first time in my life, not only did I know I needed help, but I actually accepted it. And I accepted it from a person of whom I was terrified. Because white people were just people that I was really scared of. They were either cops, or they were the hacks at the prisons, or they used to kick our butt in Harlem. And he started teaching me how to read. Year and a half, taught me how to read. Then he started me on math. Then he started me on English. He started me on writing. Then one day he says, you're going to take the GED. And I said, you got to be crazy, man. And he said, you're going to take the GED. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. I don't care what you say. I am not going to go take any big exam. I'm just not going to do it. And he kept pressuring me until I finally caved in and did it. I got the 17th highest grade in the state. Well, she said, damn, but what happened was they thought he had done the work for me. Because all I had supposedly was an IQ of 73, which is less than normal. That's high functioning brain, having brain problems. So in any case, since they thought he did it, they proctored me by themselves, and I had to take the test all over again. And I didn't do as well, but I passed everything. And getting the GED was the most important thing in my life. I mean, I think about now, and I almost want to cry. The reason it was so important was, for the first time in my life, I knew I wasn't stupid. There's a world of difference between being stupid, like some people are, or demonstrate themselves to be, and being ignorant. Ignorant means I don't know. I don't know. That's what ignorant means. Stupid means I can't learn. There's no way you can learn. And so for the first time in my life, I started believing that, man, maybe I'm not stupid. If I can pass that GED twice, maybe I'm not stupid. Maybe I won't play around with people who are trying to teach me something. maybe I'll sit and try and listen to what they're saying to me. And I started paying attention to a lot of things that way. I started paying attention to what people were saying. And all of a sudden, it started changing my life. Number one, I was reading. And I was reading rather excellent books. Because upstate New York, when people die, they give their collection of books to the prisons. So they were really good books. I mean, I got a whole education in just reading those books. And then other things happened. I started actually looking at and listening to what some of the guys, I heard in one of the books of poetry that I was looking at, there was a poem that said, 2 men looked through prison bars. One saw mud, the other saw stars. I mean, think about it. 2 men looked through prison bars. One saw mud, the other saw stars. I mean, what does that tell you? That you have the ability when you look somewhere to either see garbage or nothing, or to see what's possible and best in the horizon. And it was things like that, real little things that started changing my life, you know? And I started paying attention more to what other people were talking about. I took the dictionary and I started trying to memorize 5 words a day, just like Malcolm X had done. I thought it was one of the best things I could do. So slowly but surely, I started changing my life. I even learned to change the way I walk, because one of my friends named Julio came in and said, "Hey, Azul," and now I'm like 5'9½". I'm a bruiser, you know. I've lifted, and I'm wondering, how the hell did this guy recognize me, you know? And I asked him, I said, how did you recognize me? And he said, "Because you walk like this, man." And I said, "What?" He said, "That's how you walk." Do I walk like that now? No. Because I said, nobody's ever going to recognize me by my walk again. And slowly but surely, I kept on turning my foot every time I walked and making it turn and making it turn. And now I walk as straight as anybody else. But it was hereditary. That's the way my dad walked. My dad, when he walked, his foot just popped out there, you know. Just one of those hereditary things. But I wasn't about to let anybody ever again recognize me because of the way I walked. Because I knew that where I came from, if they could recognize me the way I walk, somebody could blow my head off. Because in point of fact, there's a lot of vengeance going on in our ghettos. You know, one person shoots somebody, the brother shoots that one, the cousin shoots the other. And I'm here to tell you that I've lost. There were about 55 of us in the gang I was in. We were junior viceroys in Harlem. And there's only 2 of us left. Me and another guy. Everybody else is dead. I mean, underground, dead, pushing up roses. You know, and it's only because he became part of the church and lived in the basement of the church, and I moved away. It's the only reason he and I are left alive out of 50-something guys. You know, it's heart-rending when you think about it. So when I gave this talk a lot, people would, that's what I looked like when I went into prison. You know, it was like, "Oh, what a sweet boy. Come over here, baby. Hey, let me give you some cigarettes, man. I like that booty of yours. It looks good." You know, I mean, really, I'm telling you, if you haven't been in the big house, that's the way it is. Especially when you go in looking like that, you know. So I forgot that picture was in there. And that's how I looked a little later on. Thought I was slick. And this is exactly the jacket I had on when I killed that kid. something that I've suffered with all my life. Because once you take a life, you've taken everything that person had. You know, I've got 14 grandchildren and 3 great-granddaughters. I got to enjoy life. You know, I'm in my 70s. And I took everything he had. He's never had anything but dirt. So you have to live with that the rest of your life. It's not easy to live with. And maybe when you're young, you go, well, shit, I'm tough. I can live with anything. I can get around anything. You know, I can goof off whenever I want, you know. But as you get older, you realize, you know, the people you hurt, the pain you've injected, the suffering you've given. Because most of us didn't even realize when I went to jail how much my mother suffered and my sisters, my wife at the time, you know, because I was already married at 15, legally married. Their parents signed, my parents signed, I got married. I had a son that was born the year after I went into the joint. Who unfortunately died 5 years ago because he followed my lifestyle. So in any case, a lot of people have asked me to write something that they could take home with them after a talk like this, so that they could hopefully inspire other people or use it as inspiration for themselves. And that's what I've done here. And I've got 7 items that really helped me change my life. The first one I mentioned at a dinner table, and we were laughing about it. The first one is something called active listening. One of the most difficult things in the world to do. And one of the most joyful things to your partner or children if you ever really practice it. Active listening is the process of taking those pictures that start in your head and everything else when somebody starts talking and trying to make an answer and stopping it and just listening to the person from head to foot. Very difficult, because most of us, the minute somebody starts talking, we start thinking about something else, you know. Important things. I'm not saying they're not important. They are important. The things you think about are important. But if you learn active listening, you learn to take that and wait for it and then use it to help you and help the other person. And it's a process. It's a process of listening and repeating, listening and repeating. There's a famous guy that from UNM that from the process of active listening created a whole interviewing process called motivational interviewing, which is one of the most important motivating interviews that you can do, particularly for drug addicts and alcoholics. So that was the first one, active listening. The second was a saying, and I've given it to you already, and that's the 2 men looked through prison bars. One saw mud and the other saw stars. That's beautiful. No, it is. It's beautiful. If you're not going to take it, I'll take it and give it to my granddaughter. It's really beautiful. The third is acting as if. What's that mean, to act as if? Can anybody give me a clue? Yeah. That's it. If you believe you can do it, if you act as if it's already done, you'll do it. It's amazing what you can do with as if you keep thinking as if you're going to do it. It's really, really, it's life-changing. 2 little words, as if. Really life-changing. The third thing is to have real goals. many of us have all sorts of ideas of what we might want to be, or what we might want to create, or how many children, or how many women we want to have, or how many men we want to have, or whatever. I mean, I don't, you know, think about it. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but most of us have all sorts of ideas. But very few of us have concrete goals. Very few of us sit down and say, this is my goal, A. This is my goal, B. This is what I'm going to do in a year. I don't care how I have to do it away, but I'm going to do it. And one of the things about having goals, though, is being realistic. I mean, if you say you want to be a doctor and that's your goal, that's great. But then figure out everything you have to do to become a doctor. I often give the example of a guy I worked with in California. I worked in a place called Project Jove with ex-offenders that came out of the joint. We helped them get jobs and things like that. And he came up to me and we're filling out the form, you know, and I'm trying to set goals. I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to be a dentist. I looked at him. I wanted to say, give me a break. You don't even have a high school diploma, turkey, you know? But instead of saying that, I wrote down dentist on top of the page. And then I wrote down below high school or GED. And then I put a lot of lines in between. And I said, you need to go, and we'll talk about it next week. You need to go to the library, because there wasn't an internet back then or phones to look at. I said, you need to go to the library and fill in each one of these blanks. What do you have to do from GED or high school diploma to dentist, to become a dentist? And he came back with this whole list. I mean, he actually did his homework. He put in all the steps he needed to do to become a dentist. And I still didn't believe him, to be perfectly honest with you. I just figured, well, you know, he won't. When I left California 5 years later, he had already been almost finished with his bachelor's. And he didn't even know how to read. But he had set a concrete goal, and that got him there. And that's the important part, that you set that goal and don't lose sight of it. Because many of us, we set goals and they go by the wayside. Or they're contradictory. You know, we want to be a superstar and a life helper at the same time. You know, we have to try and make those goals realistic and combine to each other. Once I learned how to read, what I realized was, if I can read it, I can do it. If I can read it, I can do it. I'm between masters. I did my bachelor's. I'm finishing my second master's, and I've decided my first master's, and I decided to start a second master's. Don't have much work. I'm not sure how I'm going to support myself. I learned tailoring in prison. So I see an advertisement. I'm in Galesburg, Illinois. It says, tailor wanted, must know how to drafting. Shit. The only thing they taught us was I could sew from the bottom of a pair of pants to the top of a suit. But they were always cut out for us. They would cut them out and give them to us. So I had no idea how to do patterns. So I went to the library. It was a Friday, I can remember now, and I got all the books I could on Friday and Saturday, and I went home and I read them, and I started drawing small patterns and cutting them out. And I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but I went to the place on Monday, and I said, I'm a tailor, here's my tailoring certificate, and I know how to do patterns. And they said, okay, show me. You know, and the woman gave me a coat. It was a leather coat. And she said, Here, this is a size 12. It was a woman's coat. I want a size 42 men's. I went, oh, shit. It's like, so I did it, though. Because I had read and I believed I could do it, I went ahead and I took the measurements of the coat and I enlarged them the way the book said. I couldn't bring the books in with me, but I enlarged them and I kept working on it. And I did it. And then, so I gave her the pattern and I said, here, that's a 32 men's jacket. And she said, show me. So I had to take it and put it on and cut it out. And I did. And I sewed it. And she said, you're hired. If you can read it, you can do it. If you can read it, you can do it. That's really important. If you can read it, you can do it. This is probably my favorite of all. And I'll tell you a story about it as soon as I read it to you. But it's a poem. And it's called Invictus. It's by Sir Walter Henley, who lived back in the 15th century, I think it was. And it goes like this. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstances, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeons of chance, my head is bloody but unbound. Beyond this place of worth and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishment the scrolls. I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. And those two last lines are the most important to me. Because I grew up getting beat up by a mother that was bipolar, who broke my head and broke an arm. I was in gangs, I did everything. I hurt a lot of people in my life. You know, society treated me like shit. Just like they treated those three guys over there. I mean, society just beat the hell out of us. But at some point you have to say, this is now, right now. I have to take charge of my life. I can't blame my mother anymore. I can't blame society. I can't blame the white people that are oppressing me. I can't blame I have to take charge of my life. I have to say, I'm the captain of my soul. I'm the master of my fate. I'm going to change my life because nobody else is going to do it for me. And that becomes really important. An aside on that, about 6 years ago, I get a picture in the mail from one of my daughters. And it's a picture of this poem on somebody's back. So I called her up and I said, boy, that must have hurt like hell. Where did you see that? And she said, it's my back, Dad. It's my back. She said, that poem is so powerful. It's helped me change my life so much that I decided to put it on my back to honor you and to honor me. And it's a long poem, man. Took her whole back from here all the way up here. You know, it's like, está loca. But it happened. The seventh teaching is another saying. And for me, it was really important because it taught me how to live as a giver. It says, I cried because I had no shoes till I met a man that had no feet. I cried because I had no shoes till I met a man that had no feet. Think about it. Think about how fortunate we are. I've been homeless, And I know it's not easy, but I made it out of there. I was in prison, I was a drug addict, but I made it out of there. Think about how fortunate we are. Think about how fortunate you are to be here, right now. How fortunate you are to be able to get into some of the programs that are offered by the state or by nonprofits. They didn't have any of that stuff when I was growing up. You know, we may not like being there, but if we learn while we're there, that's going to be it. It's going to be wonderful for you. The last thing I call the rear view mirror effect. The rear view mirror effect. Picture this. You're in a car. It's whatever car you want. I know everybody wants a Maserati. No, the new one that it's something about an Escalade. Tesla. A Tesla? Okay, whatever. You know, somebody. I used to ask. The first thing I used to ask all my students was to write several things that they would die for or kill for. And the day I got something that said I would kill for an Escalade, I said, "What's an Escalade? I have no clue." And that was the last semester I taught. I figure if there are people around that would kill for a car, I don't want to teach anymore. And I stopped teaching at UNM. That was it. But the reality is, picture yourself in some car, whatever car you want. You know, whatever's your favorite car. You're tooling down the highway, and I know none of us break the law, so if you're in a 65 zone, you're doing 55. And if you're in a 75 zone, you're doing 60, you right? Yeah, right. If you're in a 75, you're probably doing 95 and a half, you know. Come on, admit it, especially down the Bajada. So in any case, picture that. You're driving this car, it's the best car in the world, and you're looking the way you're supposed to look, right? You look in your mirrors, you look back in your rearview mirror, you look all around to see where you're going, where you came from. But all of a sudden, something happens really strange. As you're driving along, your eyes fixate on the rearview mirror, and you can't look anywhere else. You can't look sideways, you can't look down, you can't look at, the only thing you can see is through your rearview mirror. That's all you can see. That's it. What's going to happen? Yeah. You're going to crash. And believe it or not, and most people here won't admit it, most people here don't even know it, but that's how they live their life. They live their life looking backwards most of the time and bumping into all sorts of stuff and saying it's somebody else's fault. Because they don't realize that what they're doing is worrying about that SOB back there that did so-and-so to me, or she did, I'm going to get even with, or I need, or what happened that day, or what, it's all gone, man. It's gone. There's nothing back there. The past does not exist. There is absolutely, positively no way that you can change it. Once the moving finger has written, it's written forever. So what's the point of living in the past? It's good to look back to know where you came from. It's good to look back to know what your improvements have been. But if you live back there, you can't live now. And living right now, this moment, which will never come again, this moment will never, ever, ever come again. That's how we have to live, living here, right now. Forget about the past. Look where you've been so you can go. Have a goal that you're going forward. But this moment, right now, is the most important moment in your life. The most important moment in your children's life. This moment, the moment that you experience. And if every time you forget that, every single time you forget how important this moment is, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Because you're going to do things that are contradictory to what you want to do. So, those are the 7 or 8 things that I suggest people do. The other thing that I suggest, and I'm in my new edition of the book, is I suggest taking up hypnosis. Because it helped me in prison, and it helps me help other people a lot. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. One of the ways I help people with drug addiction and other things is through hypnosis. I help people lose weight, all sorts of things. And I'm going to end there and let you ask all the questions you want. The only thing is, I'll tell you the same thing I tell my students, is you can ask anything you want. That's your right, but it's my right not to answer if I don't feel like it. So, thank you.